Good afternoon. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Bruce Mullock. Panel members this afternoon are Yim Chen, Lisa Valentini, and Erin Cheng. This will be a virtual public hearing. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event platform that is being monitored by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When his or her item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or to alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and TLAB will be sending notifications and updates by email only. You may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent will proceed with their presentation if requested by the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant and agent or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and may be asked to make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after the speaker has finished the presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut, but only to those issues that were raised by the speakers. And that'll mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest by panel members? There is one. Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, it's at the bottom or close to the bottom of the agenda. Item 40, 831 Logan Avenue. I know one of the people or one of the residents who signed one of the support letters, so I'm going to make a declaration on that basis and not participate.
Thank you very much. Staff? None? Okay. Very good. Deferral requests. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Good afternoon, Mrs. Chair and panel members. Yes, we have item 38, 2273 Queen Street East, and item 39 ABC regarding 441 Concord Avenue.
Thank you very much. Okay then. Let's deal with those deferral requests first. And so we shall ask the applicant for number 38 to join us.
Mr. Chair, it doesn't look like Adam Easer is... Sorry?
Oh, he's three. Oh, that'd be.
So that he wouldn't be on.
Okay, so those two would both be actually after the 3:30 segment. Makes sense. Okay. Okay then. And on this segment, there are no files to be closed.
No.
Thank you. Okay. Okay then. We'll deal with those deferrals when we get to the 3:30 segment. And that will be at item number 33. Okay. So let's go then to number 21 on the agenda, 5 CAREY Road. On 5 CAREY Road, the committee has before it applicant's materials submitted, photographs of the subject property submitted by the agent, a previous Committee of Adjustment decision, building permit number issued May 2019, and an order to comply issued June the 5th, 2020. There is opposition correspondence from the following: 23 Glebe Road East. I shall go by the names here: Benjamin Jacob, Carolyn Spindler, Elizabeth Ray McLeod, Paul Wilson, Jean Parker, Paul Spindler, Eliza Sim, and Evie Vatra. Okay then, and moderator, we do have just one speaker registered to speak here, okay.
Sure.
So we'll ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Jonathan Benskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Good afternoon, Jonathan. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Jonathan, you'll have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel members. Please go ahead.
Please, if we could open up my support material I filed. First, I'd like to start off by indicating that the proposal that is before you today is not related to a previously approved Committee of Adjustment application. The house that was in the building permit drawings that are in the file is for an as-of-right house. So we're not coming back for something that was previously approved and adding to it. Now, that being said, I obviously can acknowledge that the dwelling has been built as for what is before you today. Now, there is good and there is bad as to how that relates to the variances and impact, because we can theoretically and see the impact of it right before you today. So what I've done is I've actually prepared in my support material the changes that are proposed from the original building permit to what is before you today. So I just made a quick chart to go over and outline the changes. In terms of the changes to the height, in my opinion, the height would be the greatest impact of change from what was approved, seeing as it went from an as-of-right 9 meters to a 9.81 meter proposal that is before you today. So in my support material, I put the two dwellings next to each other, with one that was the approved building permit drawings, as well as the proposed dwelling that is actually built, that you could see that was on the screen previously. The increase in height is essentially to accommodate storage on that third floor. Now, that third floor storage is also linked to the increase in FSI that is before you today from what was approved previously. Now, how I can assure you that that third floor is being used for storage is the existing height that is in there. The occupiable space of that third floor is 6'6". So in terms of being able to use that third floor as an occupiable space, it just simply wouldn't be possible with a 6'6" clear head height. Now, the reason for requiring that third floor to be used for a kind of a storage area is the conversion of the basement into a legal unit to accommodate the prospective owner's parents who are to live in the basement. Now, what that did was eliminate all the storage from the basement and put it onto the third floor. Now, that third floor projection, that is that dormer that we can see, does not face any adjacent neighbor to the east or to the south. That projection actually faces the side street of Glebe, which fronts onto the church. So in terms of impact, the impact of that side dormer, which is creating the additional FSI, is reduced by not having an adjacent neighbor there. Now, that also relates to overlook as well as privacy and things like that. So this is also quite a unique site and neighborhood in terms of grading. Both Glebe, Tullis, as well as CAREY are all on slopes. So the actual slopes, and if we could maybe go back to one of the pictures previously, you can really see the change in slope of the dwellings itself. So as you come from this end of CAREY Road, which would be the west part, to the east part of CAREY Road, which ends at Tullis, you'll see a very large change of slope. Now, that also impacts the streetscape itself from what you'll see. Now, along CAREY Road, there are numerous 3-story houses that already exist within the neighborhood itself. But again, to go back to that 3rd floor, which isn't intended to be occupiable, based upon the as-built clear head height of 6'6". Now, again, to go back, that additional area of FSI is only on that 3rd floor. There is no additional area altered. Lastly, to go back to the order to comply, the order to comply is essentially what happened with variance number 5, which is part of the finished floor height. What happened is the foundation actually, this is a good picture if we can leave that on. Due to a lot of the grade changes, I was told there was some confusion with the level of the foundation wall. So the OTC deals strictly with the foundation wall being increased by 0.11 meters from what is permissible at the 1.2, which then relates to the finished first floor height of being over by the 0.11 meters. So in my opinion, the proposal that is before you today is minor in nature. The exterior main wall height increases 0.18 meters, with the increase in height really being appropriated away from any adjacent neighbor with that dormer that faces the flanking street that is before you today. That's the dormer in question right there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Panel questions now, or shall we go to the speaker that's standing by? Let's go to the speaker. Okay. And we'll ask the speaker to join us now, please, by stating your name.
Carolyn Spindler, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Carolyn, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Carolyn Spindler, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I'm sorry.
We can hear you. Hello? Hello? We can hear you. Carolyn? She keeps muting herself. Carolyn, you can go ahead. You've been unmuted. Hello?
Hello?
You can go ahead.
Please repeat.
No.
We'll just wait a moment more. Do we think that's Carolyn there, just not quite connecting with us?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, let's see what we can do then by way of
Maybe I'll try.
notifying her that we can't hear her by other
Yeah,
means. Or
Carolyn, we can't really hear you. I'm gonna try calling you on the number that you left us.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
Okay, Carolyn. I heard you that time, but your voice is faint.
Sorry.
Okay. Carolyn, you're now with the Committee of Adjustment. We can hear you, but your voice is faint. I'm going to ask you to, we'll see how this goes. You have 5 minutes to address the committee. Let's see if we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, you tried calling as well. Carolyn, can you hear us?
Hi there. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Now we hear you loud and clear. Very good.
Wonderful.
I don't know what happened
I
there, but
apologize.
okay. Whatever you did, don't change it now. That's because that worked. Because it worked. So Carolyn, you're now with us on the Committee of Adjustment, and you have 5 minutes to address the panel members. to tell them about your concerns and the impact of what you're concerned about of this application. So go ahead now, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. I certainly won't take that much time. I appreciate the situation that the builders are in for the property at 5 CAREY Road. However, it has been very clear for several years that there is no intention for the owners to actually move into that place. They have tried to originally make it a 3-dwelling unit. They have changed it to a 2-dwelling unit. I understand from the gentleman who was speaking before me that the basement has now been accommodated for the grandparents. I do not believe this situation to be correct, but regardless, I don't have any information that supports it specifically because there are 2 meters outside. At one point, several months ago, there were 3 meters on the house. So we do believe in this neighborhood that the intention is to turn this into a multi-unit dwelling. Furthermore, this house, should the rules be broken and the owners allowed to develop as they have, we believe that precedents are being made which are not good. We would like the committee to appreciate that this is a 1-block, very short residential street with mature houses. There is development everywhere in the city, and we appreciate that very much. But the look and the layout of this house does not match with the houses on this street, and we respectfully request that the committee take into consideration that continuing to break or have allowances for bylaws that are already in place set a bad precedent for future building in this neighborhood and specifically on this street, and impacts the green environmental space around and the light, and particularly the light going into the houses surrounding it. Thank you very much.
Hello,
you very much.
Caroline. Could you please state your address?
Yes, Caroline Spindler, 4 CAREY Road.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Panel members, questions for Carolyn? Are there any? No, don't appear to be any. So we'll go back now to the applicant for his response to the concerns that have been expressed. And so applicant, just out of interest, how many units are in the house as it is built? How many individual dwelling units?
As per the plans that are before you, Mr. Chair, there's the main dwelling, which is the main floor and the second floor, and then the accessory basement unit that's permitted in the R zone.
Yep, okay. Okay, very good. And there was a concern expressed by Carolyn that the house as it is built that doesn't fit the neighborhood. It doesn't, it's not sensitive to the neighborhood. And then she also alluded to there were concerns about the permit process. Now, obviously, the Committee of Adjustment does not deal with the permit process, nor are we mandated to do disciplinary or punitive things in that regard. But in the letters that we received, which numbered as about 8, there was continuing concern about the disregard for the permitting process, which the site seemed to have showed over the years, and also concern about the property with respect to height and FSI. So I'd ask you to address the height and FSI issues would fall into what Carolyn was talking about not fitting in. Perhaps you could address those two things. One of them is the purview of the Committee of Adjustment. The other one, I'm simply interested in what you might have to say. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, first to address the permitting process, I haven't been involved in any of the previous Committee of Adjustment applications or the building permit itself. I was retained to represent and look at the variances that are before you today. From my understanding, the original intention was for a 3-unit dwelling on the house. Now, Mr. Chair, that is also permitted as per the zoning bylaw. The R district is probably the most permissible of all of the zoning categories throughout Toronto, other than the RM zone, which specifically looks for multiple units. But also, although not proposed before you today, a triplex is also permitted in this neighborhood. And I can tell you there are triplexes along Tullis Drive that exist there today. So, but to go back to the variances that are before you today, if we could maybe leave the screen here, sir. Part of, or the main part of FSI comes as it relates to the lot. Being a corner lot where it is, as we look at the plan that is before you today, we don't have a rectangular lot at all. So, sir, what we have is essentially a square at the front and a triangle at the rear. So in terms of the FSI, in my opinion, when we have such an irregular lot like this, where FSI is directly related to the lot size, it's important to then start to look at what's creating that FSI request. What are we offending of other parts of the zoning bylaw? And what I can tell you in a case like this, sir, is we're not offending any other characteristic of the zoning bylaw in terms of setbacks, all right, or building length, or building depth. There's a generous setback to the dwelling of number 7, which is located to the east, which is largely created by an existing right-of-way that is there that would have to be maintained. In terms of the height, again, we come back to where that height has been appropriated on the property. Because of the grade changes of Tullis as well as CAREY, the impact of the dwellings in this neighborhood is mitigated by the stepping up of the street. We don't have a consistent topographic feature of CAREY Road where you can stand and look and see adjacent houses that are 2 stories and 3 stories. We can already see from, I mean, it's a little bit cut off on your end, but if we were to look at the topographic elevations on the far left of the screen, we see a 153.45. I do have a full set in front of me. By the time we're at the easternmost point of CAREY Road, there's already a 1 meter difference in the topography of CAREY Road. So in terms of a consistent streetscape, it simply would not be possible, whether this were a 2-story or a 3-story dwelling, to achieve along CAREY Road because of the topographical change, which is even more extreme as we continue to the east. So, sir, I think that answers those 2 questions. There was a mention of reducing green space. There is no request for a landscaping variance that is before you today. It is all built as per the zoning bylaw. And again, with the built form of the coverage being identical to what is as per the approved building permit.
Thank you very much. Panel members, other questions for the Ms. Valentini? Go ahead.
Thank you. In terms of just the height variance, I want to make sure I understand what you said correctly. Is it just the presence of the dormer that triggers it, or I'm assuming it's overall building height and it would be with or without the dormer, it would be over anyway, or am I incorrect?
You are correct.
So with or without the dormer, it's still over the height.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay then. Let's take this one into committee now, and we can move, if there is any discussion about it, or we can move right to a motion, whatever. But we'll take it into committee for thoughts. Ms. Valentini, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I went to visit this one. I mean, we did get, in a way, there's the benefit of, as Mr. Binkowski said, whether it's good or bad, it's already built. I mean, we certainly don't want things built before the variances are obtained. I mean, that's obviously something that should not happen. It sounds like from what he's described, there was an error in terms of the foundation. Notwithstanding, we're to look at this as if it had not been built. But I did go by and look at the site, and in my view, I didn't find the site to be, or to the building to be, out of keeping with everything else that's going on the street. I mean, it is different from some of the houses that currently exist, but I did note there were other new builds on the street, and to me, it seems similar in size to those. In terms of the height, overall height, I'm satisfied with Mr. Benkowski's explanation in terms of how that's mitigated because the street does slope upwards, or the grade changes as the street goes. I don't know if it's north or south, I'm sorry, but anyway, this sits at the lower end of the grade of the street where the grade is lower. So, and as well, the FSI was the only thing I was concerned about, but I noted that when I did visit the site that it's well within the size of the property next door. It's a corner lot, so I don't see any impact, and the lot is pie-shaped, so that impacts FSI. Notwithstanding, you know, I understand the concerns of the residents, but in my view, notwithstanding, I think it does meet the 4 tests. I think the variances that are being requested are minor, and I don't find the dwelling to be grossly out of character or out of size or scope with what's currently in the neighborhood. So I'm in support of the application, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Valentini. Other comments? Ms. Chan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, not too much of a comment, but I agree with analysis of this, especially as you've been on site, and sometimes you will see the thing much more accurately. And I do, when I also look at the variances, actually, majority of them are quite minor, and then I think that it is sort of not too, maybe I cannot say, but it's not unusual that when sometimes during a project, to certain thing happen that you have to deviate from the permit drawing. But I do not think that it deviate that much because the variants are quite minor. So I'm in support of the thesis motion.
Thank you. Mr. Cheng?
I think, as usual, I look at this project as a brand new project, and they are minor. And I believe, you know, they have done something before the application that they should have already got the fees right. So I think that is not a problem. So I'm in support of the proposal as well.
And I'm looking at the project too from the point of view of its not having been built. I'm visualizing it as still on the drawing board. And, you know, I say to myself, I think the variances are probably, or in my mind, they would satisfy the 4 tests. So I would also support. Okay. Look to someone on the panel to come forward with a motion, please. Ms. Valentini?
Thank you. I'll bring a motion forward for approval of the application, and I don't think we have any conditions on this one, so.
Seconded by Ms. Chan. Moved and seconded to approve the application. Those in favor? Unanimous vote carries the motion. The application is approved. Thank you. And we move along to number 22. 122 CHRISTIE Street. We're looking at the applicant's materials as submitted. There is an altered survey showing the setbacks submitted by the agent in September. And there is a commenting report from Community Planning. Very good. Okay. Moderator, do we have the agent ready to join us? Okay. So I'll ask the agent to join us, please, simply by stating your name.
Gabriel, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Gabriel Frasson, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Sorry.
Number 22 is Marco. Yeah.
Apologies, there you are.
There you go. I think I'm there now. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm the agent and the designer for this application.
Good afternoon. Okay, Marco.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to check with panel members to see what their preference is here. Panel, would you like a presentation, or do you have questions for Marco, the agent? He's with us now.
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
This is kind of like a similar project we had in the morning. This is to be semi-detached with 124. Right?
Correct. We're doing it at the same time for 122 and 124. The scope of the additions is a little bit different because 122 has more of a third-story addition being built at the back. But in terms of side yard setbacks, lengths, front projections, they are very close to one another, as you can see also by the variances. And the plan that you have before you that we've submitted in September, that was part of the discussions with planning. Show how the proposal was not asking for a front yard setback all the way up to the front of the dwelling. That's why they asked to tie us into these side elevations. And that's why we've provided those measurements on the site plan, indicating the different setbacks at the different floor levels.
Okay, yeah, I noticed the drawings are identical.
Yes.
Okay then. So we shall deal with the two applications individually, although they're very closely related, being the two sides of the semi-detached house. But we're dealing with 22 now. If there are no further questions, look to the panel for a motion, please, on this, on number 22. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I can start because with the like 122, most of the variances are minor. Asking for a little bit beyond the bylaw, and there's no, except for the condition recommended by the staff, I have no problem on the two conditions, subject to the two conditions staff suggested. And I move for approval. The first one is to tie to the elevation submitted, and also the second one is about the there's funds setbacks only to the post, to the one-story portion.
Okay. Those are the two conditions imposed by planning, right? Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Okay. So motion to approve subject to planning. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded, Mr. Chang. Moved and seconded to approve subject to planning. Those in favor? And number 22 is approved. We can move on quickly to number 23. Next door, 124 Christie. And on this one, Marco, I wanted to ask you, is the front yard soft landscaping, is that an existing condition?
Yes, it is. On both cases, the front yard is not being changed and it's being maintained just because of the existing protection of the front porch. The changes we made was in the rear yard to make sure that both rear yards did comply with the minimum landscape.
Thank you. Okay. Okay then. Panel, if you have a question, go ahead, Ms. Chan.
No question. I just ask if there are no further questions or comments. I'm ready for a motion.
Let's go for a motion.
Yeah, the motion is for approval subject to two conditions suggested by planning report. Tied to the north elevation and also the setback, the front yard setback.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion? Oh, it is seconded, Ms. Valentini. So moved and seconded on number 23 to approve subject to planning. Those in favor, show of hands. That vote is unanimous to carry the motion, and the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, panel members. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. With that, panel moves along to number 24, 1 Algarve Crescent. And on 1 Algarve, we have applicant materials, 11 photographs of the existing trees submitted by the agent. We have correspondence in support and in opposition. In support, the letters are from 4, 5, 6, 10, and 12 Algarve. In opposition, there is one piece of correspondence from Jellica Milsich at 115 Turnberry Avenue from 22 September. And we'll go now to have the agent join us. Okay, on 24. Agent, you can join us now by stating your name, please.
Gabriel, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. I have it right this time, right? It's Gabriel? Yes. Gabriel, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Gabriel, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're going to give you a call at the number that you provided.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Gabriel, can you mute your other device? Because we're picking up feedback.
Just mute it. Yeah. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee.
Good afternoon. Please state your name.
My name is Gabriel Frasson from Moretto Design, and I'm the agent for both 1 Algarve and 3 Algarve.
Very good. Okay, very good, Gabriel.
Yep.
I'm just gonna we're gonna deal with number 1 Algarve first.
Okay.
So I'll just check with panel questions for the agent panel. Hearing none.
Microphone is out of here. Microphone in order.
Oh, Mr. Chang, go ahead.
I guess just for the sake of the argument, can you address the concern by the letter from the neighbor?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, there was an opposition letter from Jellica Milsich.
Yes. 115 Turnberry, yes.
1 or 2 minutes to explain, and I think that would be sufficient.
Yes, we were, the opposition letter addresses the fact of having a 3rd story and potentially using the property, from my understanding, just construction noise and issues that might arise from construction during the process. But given the fact that we're only doing an addition on top of the existing foundation, or any of the footprint of the home would not be affected, the construction would be maintained and tried to be kept to a minimum. Also, the fact of the 3-story, I don't know if it was allowed, but I submitted some maps indicating existing 3 stories that are in the neighborhood. So there are properties that are, even along Algarve here, there are properties that have 3 stories as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, who's ready to move to a motion? Ms. Valentini, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When reviewing this application, one of the things I did look at, and the agent just touched upon, is the fact that there are other 3-story dwellings along this section of Algarve. So I think the proposal fits in with what is going on. There are other, like I said, there are other 3-story dwellings, and it's just a request for an increase in FSI as a result of building over the existing footprint. I don't see any impact, in particular because the attached neighbor is doing the same. So I think it fits in with the neighborhood and meets the 4 tests, in my opinion. And there are support letters from neighbors in the along our Algarve as well. I'm happy to bring a motion, but oh, Ms. Chan has a.
Oh, I'm ready to second your motion, and I just want to add to strengthen your point that in the neighborhood, it's not just about the height fit in the neighborhood, but also the building type, the massing. There's actually a lot of similar form of semi-detached with 2.5 story and 3 story. So that's what I want to enforce. And plus, there's no height variance here. Yes, so I second your.
Well, thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Motion carried. And that application is also approved. Thank you. We in the panel move on to number 26.
Chair, did we do both? 25 and. Oh,
Pardon me, I was wondering about the other side.
26, sorry, we just said that.
Oh, yes, 25 is
25
number
again.
3. Yep. So we are on 26, having done number 25, which is 3 Algarve.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we just dealt with item 24, number 1. Now we need to move on to item 25, which is number 3.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I'm ahead of myself. We are on number 25, which is number 3. Okay. Very good. And Gabriel is still with us? Good?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Gabriel. So on number 3 panel, similar application. Any questions for Gabriel?
No.
Yes, it's the same as number 1 Algarve Crescent, same opponent, similar concern, and the other opponent concern is about landing of the neighborhood, which we already addressed, and the noise, which is not something we can deal with. So I guess, yeah, I think my other 2 colleagues to start a motion.
Okay, then, with respect to number 3, if there are no direct questions for the agent, who will bring forward a motion, please? Ms. Valentini.
I noticed the FSI was slightly higher in this one, but I think it's because the lot is slightly smaller. So in any event, I think got the similar application. So I'm happy to bring a motion forward for approval of the application. In my view, it meets the 4 tests.
Thank you. Second to that motion. It is seconded by Mr. Cheng. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? Motion carried. Applications approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, and the panel moves along to number 26 at this stage, which is 84 Whitehall. And on 84 Whitehall, we have before us the applicant's materials as submitted, covering letter from the agent. There's email correspondence from Heritage Preservation. And once again, we have correspondence both in support of and in opposition to. In support from 82 Whitehall, which would appear to be next door, and from 88 Whitehall. In opposition, There is one piece of correspondence from number 70, Whitehall. Okay.
Yes, good afternoon. My name's Tom Sprague. Can you
Good.
hear me okay?
We hear you just fine, Tom. Yeah, you're very clear.
Yes, good. Okay, great, good. Sprague and Company Architects. I'll just give a very, very brief background to this application. The owners have lived in their home now for the past 8 years, and they do now require additional living space for their family. So what they'd like to do is take down, there's an existing one-story rear addition, and they'd like to replace it with a larger two-story rear addition that would accommodate the needs and requirements of their family. They have talked to many of the neighbors and the immediate neighbors, and the two letters that you have are actually from, as you mentioned earlier, one is number 82 is the immediate neighbor to the west, and 88 is actually the immediate neighbor to the east. So both the neighbors on each side are very much supportive of what's being proposed here. With respect to the variances before you today, there's the FSI, and I also did write just a little explanation about the depth. The depth is really driven, quite honestly, by the fact there's a one-story sort of bay extension on the first floor that sticks out a bit further. You can see it shaded there. That kind of drives the length for the most part. The actual length of the two-story part of the house is actually under 17 meters, the length. So in my opinion, these are the only two variances. There's no side yard variances. There's no height of wall. The landscaping's fine. I do believe that what's being proposed here, we've tried to blend it into the neighborhood very much at the front, and I do feel it's very appropriate. And I think importantly in this case as well, the two immediate neighbors, the ones really affected, are very much supportive.
Thank you very much. Questions for the agent, panel members? In the letter that we received from number 70, Tom, there was concern expressed about the house being too large, the massing causing what was described as encroachment on other properties. If you could comment on that, please.
I said that, first of all, it's in terms of encroachment on there's no side yard setbacks, and both the neighbors on each side are supportive. There was also, does not add to accommodation. They're a family of 5 people and they need the space. So they're not planning to subdivide or anything. But I don't think in Rosedale, if you look at the front, we've tried to blend it in really, really well. There's a mix of houses in Rosedale, so I don't think it's out of keeping at all. And I know that the historic nature of the district, we did talk to Heritage very early on. They thought it was quite appropriate what we were proposing to do. So I certainly feel it's very reasonable myself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay, panel. In the absence of further questions, we'd look for a motion, please. Ms. Chen, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a straightforward application, and they do have the support of the adjacent neighbor. That counts a lot. And I will move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded by Ms. Valentini. Motion seconded to approve. Panel members in favor? And the vote is unanimous to carry the motion and approve the application. And panel moves along to number 27. 23 Peveril Hill South. And on 27, we have before us primarily the applicant's submitted materials plus submitted just 2 days ago. We have a photograph of the property received October the 4th, and there are 9 form letters in support from owners and occupants along Peveril Hill South. That's 9 form letters. So Those are the materials we have here. Okay. So we'll ask the agent to join us. I think we're showing here registered to speak. We have the agent and the owners.
Hello?
Okay. Hello, agent.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hear you nicely. State your name, please.
My name is Humad Riahi. I'm the designer and the agent for this project.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay then, panel members. Any need for a presentation on this one? Any questions for the applicant? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted you to speak to the FSI. I was trying to figure out what the existing is and whether, in terms of FSI, if this fits in with the neighborhood. Can you speak to that, please?
Sure. I calculated the FSI for the existing one, and it is 0.75. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So it's already over. Are there any other? Oh, you said. Wait a second. Sorry. Any other FSIs similar in the neighborhood?
Yeah, there are many houses in the neighborhood that condense and big in this on the lot of their properties, and this is similar to those ones. And the reason of this huge numbers is because the basement is considered as an area to calculate the FSI. Otherwise, the numbers would be much smaller. And the deck also is a deck, but right now it's considered as a balcony.
Further questions, panel? Or if there are no further questions, would someone move to a motion, please? Anyone ready for a motion?
Okay, maybe
Ms.
I start then.
Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I have studied the material, and although it's done like the FSI is asking for a lot, as after he explained it, including the basement is probably just by average house in that area, and they do have quite a few supports, and have no problem supporting the application also. There will be no conditions.
Motion to approve without conditions, second to that motion. Seconded by Mr. Cheng. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? Motion carried. And that application is approved. On 562 Dovercourt Road, item number 28, we have before us the submitted materials from the applicant, and beyond that, there are no further further documents. So, let us have the agent join us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Enzo Lacasano. I'm the agent for this application.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Okay. Panel. Any questions for the agent on this application? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you. I noticed that the garage floor area is quite, it's a bit over, it's large. I sort of saw it as maybe fitting in with the other garages, but can you give me an idea of why it's so much larger and how that fits in with the existing garages in the area?
Well, it's to be honest with you, it's actually one of the smaller ones in the area.
Okay. Okay, well, fair enough. But
The depth is really a function of what the city requests us for a legal parking space, plus obviously some storage. So the width is really a function of the width of the lot, and I know a lot of people like to do lot line to lot line for a security reason, and also for the maintenance, because no one's going to crawl into a 1 foot space down the side between garages. So again, we wanted to maintain the green space, obviously in the backyard, because we could have gone larger to even match the adjoining neighbors. But the client felt that, you know, it's big enough, and they want to take advantage of the green space as well in the back.
Thank you. Okay.
So, I will make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang.
It's my turn now. Yes, I think it's my turn. I did actually study the variances, and the garage is very straightforward and simple. I also look at the other garages in the same laneway, and yours is really not the biggest, and I understand why you need to achieve the width. So I would like to suggest that we will approve this this application with no conditions.
And I will second your motion, Aaron.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? And the motion is carried.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. And that takes the panel to number 29, which is 66 Afton. Here we have the applicant's material. Ms. Chan, go ahead. Ms. Chan, yes?
Isn't there a deferral request at this time slot we have to deal with first?
I beg your pardon.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it seems like it's past 3:30, and I believe Ms. Chen is requesting that we deal with the two deferrals for items 38 and 39.
I see your point. Well, let's do, because I've called it out, I agree with your point, it's a good one. Okay, so let's do 29. We've called 29, let's finish 29, and we'll go to the two deferrals, which were 3:30 time slot. Thanks for that suggestion, it's a good one. And on 29, we have we have correspondence in just the form of one piece from 64A Afton. And this is from Leo Milas and Anna Buchan. Okay, so. We do here have two speakers registered, I see, moderator. Okay. All right then, let's have the agent join us to get started.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you clearly.
Hello everyone, my name is Nikita Matsarsky, and I'm speaking on behalf of the owners of the property located at 66 Afton Avenue.
Thank you very much. Nikita, you shall have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Go ahead now, please.
Well, we have 3 variances requested for this project. The first is the building depth. The permitted maximum is 14 meters, and the proposed depth is 16.43 meters. This exceeds the maximum, but since the lot is very narrow with a frontage of only 4.20 meters, and the urban density is increasing in the city, we think it is reasonable to have a depth of 16.43 meters. It also allows us to have an additional bedroom too on the second floor. It's a master bedroom, and it was one of the owner's requests, and that's the reason, actually that's the main purpose of this project. The second variance is related to the second floor balcony. It's encroaches into the required west yard setback by 0.41 meters. We think this is not significant too. Besides, it is possible to install privacy screens if the neighbors are concerned about their privacy or something else. Variance number 3, the proposed deck may encroach into the required side yard setback by a maximum of 1.5 meters if it is no closer to the side lot line than 0.3 meters. However, even though our deck encroaches only by 0.9 meters, it does not comply because it is 0 meters from the west side lot line. We believe this should not cause any problems too, because if you look at the map, you'll see that there is a lane and there are no houses next to the deck. So our deck is not an issue for the neighborhood too. We also, the other thing I want to mention is the neighbors on the east side. They have a letter of concern in which they said that there are inconsistencies in setbacks on drawings. And yes, this is true, but we want to assure you that there is a setback of 0.31 meters anyways. It's just a typo on the drawings. We'll add this setback of 0.31 meters for building maintenance and construction, and we'll update the drawings after this hearing shortly.
I'm sorry, you say you'll update the drawings after the hearing.
Yeah, well, there was like a typo or like a mistake, and the neighbors noticed that, and they were complaining about it in the letter of concern. And I'm just explaining that this is just a typo, and there is still a setback of 0.31 meters because they thought there is no setback.
Okay. Have we?
No, the site plan is fine. It's I think there was a mistake on one of the elevations or something else.
Okay, so just so I understand, the measurement that shows is incorrect. Is that true?
No, it's correct. This one is correct. Like that one that shows on the site plan is correct. There is 0.31 meters. The setback, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I need to know that. All right. Very good. I'm sorry. Have you finished your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right then. Panel, I suggest we go on to hear the speakers and then come back to the applicant. So we do have 2 speakers registered. And we'll ask the first speaker to join us by stating your name.
Leo Mieles, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead. Leo, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Leo, you're gonna have to speak up. You're very faint. Please. We're gonna call you on the phone number.
Now?
Oh yeah.
Now we hear you better.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to describe the two main concerns.
Just a moment before you do. We want to hear them, please. Just state your name for us now, please.
My name is Leo Mieles. I'm the resident and co-owner of 64A Afton, the townhouse directly next to 66 Afton.
Thank you. Please tell us about your concerns on this.
Thank you. I'd like to start with the side setback, and the agent did speak to the apparent discrepancy, which is presented in the second floor plan. it appeared that it was wider than what was shown on the site plan. But the main concern that we have regarding the side setback is that we'd like to see a distance that allows for maintenance without infringement upon their neighbor. And so you can see here that there is 0.31 meters side setback, and the drawing A5.2 showed a 4.178 meter dimension, which would imply that there was actually no setback. But in broad strokes, what we would like to see is a setback such that maintenance can be done without infringing on the other neighbor. In this case, it would be us. And I think that the general intent of the zoning bylaw in relation to side setbacks, so on, is such that there can be respectful distances between neighbors. I realize I don't have much time, so I'd like to continue to our second concern, which is in regards to the depth. We are concerned that it is too deep. It is not minor nor desirable. And I'd like to point out that I don't see a precedent in the immediate area for a proposal with this depth, with this number of stories, because the general pattern of the street doesn't seem to conform to that. If you look towards the west, from 66 Afton, you will see one-story garages that are detached. If you look towards the east of 66 Afton, you see a general pattern of two-story houses that have additions at the back, including our own, that are one-story. Therefore, the massing, the height, gets smaller as one moves towards the back of a house. So in that regard, I don't think that what is being presented is minor in relation to the immediate context. And if I can speak to one other aspect of depth proposed, is that it'll have an effect on the nature or the extent of sunlight that reaches our house. By virtue of us being a townhouse, we don't have a great amount of light coming in, and because of the position of the lots, which angle slightly to the west, we have the advantage currently of being able to see the late afternoon sun in the spring and summer months. And with the depth as it is drawn, that will disappear entirely. And from our perspective, it is not desirable. So I think that it is not minor in relation to the context of the one-story additions along the street. And from our perspective, it's disappointing to see that the depth will go out that far. And we would be much more amenable to the project if the depth was reduced such that it went no further than the depth of our house, which I believe we articulated in our letter.
Very good. Other questions for Leo? Panel members. Okay. Hearing none.
May I add one more comment?
Go ahead.
The agent noted that they wanted a master bedroom, or to add a bedroom on the second floor. Now, I don't wish to design the project for them, but it is clear to me that the depth could be reduced theoretically, given that the ensuite master bathroom looks quite luxurious with two sinks. It doesn't take much, in my opinion, to look at that design and see ways that the depth can be reduced while still maintaining a master bedroom on the second floor, complete with an ensuite washroom that maybe isn't quite so luxurious or has two sinks.
So by reducing the size of the ensuite.
I think it's quite achievable, and as you can see in the context of Afton Avenue, there are a number of single-family dwellings that have families that live in them quite comfortably.
Thank you very much. Any questions, panel, of this speaker? All right, then, thank you. And we'll go on now to the other registered speaker in opposition, who's standing by.
Mr. Chair, the second registered speaker actually just sent a cancellation. So
We're not raising the second speaker.
sorry.
Do you say, Lewis Unkaya we're not able to connect with?
Yeah, they've just sent in a cancellation. So
They've canceled,
yeah.
okay.
That's right.
All right, so we'll go back now to the agent and give the agent an opportunity to speak to what we've heard here. From Leo next door, concerns about the depth, what he considers to be the needless extra depth of your proposal, how it will affect his backyard and enjoyment of his backyard, cutting off the use of sunset, I believe he said, at certain times of the year when he can now view it, and he wonders why you have to be beyond what the bylaw permits. So I'll ask you to address that, please.
Well, the reason is that, well, I believe that that the bedroom is already small enough, and it's just not quite possible to make it smaller for for comfortable use. Besides, they have some kind of wood construction in the rear of the house too, and the difference between our addition and that wood construction isn't very big. If they're really concerned about the sunlight, probably we could have reduced the deck and removed the balcony.
You're talking about removing the second floor balcony?
Yeah, the second floor balcony, because I don't know, when I personally look at the floor plans, the bedrooms are already small enough, well, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm looking at the site plan here, and I see that Leo's property has a wood addition at the back. Will your proposal, or do you know how much past the end of Leo's wood addition your proposed dwelling will extend? Oh, I see. Okay.
It exceeds only, well, almost by 3 feet.
By about 3 feet, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, and you've put an idea on the table now. Well, panel, the applicant has put an idea on the table to remove his rear second floor balcony. Interesting. Any other questions for the applicant? Panel members.
So does that mean variance number 2 is being eliminated? Is that what's happening?
Applicant?
Oh, that was a question to the applicant?
Yes.
Are you eliminating variance number 2 regarding the balcony?
We would either eliminate it, or we would do a French balcony if the neighbors next to us are concerned about the sunlight. So I think they would let more sunlight come in if we either eliminate it or make a French balcony.
Okay,
because in my opinion, I don't know, it exceeds only by 3 feet, but for the comfortable use of the bedroom and of the second floor space, because this is like, that was one of the main requests, like, of the owners for this project. This is like why we are talking here, and yeah.
Okay, may I ask staff, please, could you put up the rear elevation, please, that shows that second floor balcony from, looking from, onto it from the rear? Okay, thank you. All right. It's actually better from the side elevation, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right, panel. Applicant has put this out there. Let's take the application into committee now for discussion.
Okay, I want to start because I think that is a misunderstanding of variance too. It's not that they cannot have the balcony. It's only that it is closer to 0.3 meter from a building. That it also does not have does not abut the streets, so it's encroaching by 41 millimeter. I'm not so sure why we will have to. I mean, they can still build a balcony. That's why if you delete it, but then they will have to comply with the maybe eliminate the 41 encroachment. But whether the 41 millimeter encroachment affects too much of the whole proposal, I'm not too sure. But yeah, basically, they will still be able to build balcony if they're concerned about privacy or shadow.
Other comments?
I think eliminating that item 2 is going to be helpful too. Adding privacy screen might be more if we're going to improve.
Aaron? Aaron?
Side stories.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Sorry, I was saying that perhaps adding privacy screen is more practical, and just taking it off. I mean, personally, I see this project. I've heard both sides of the stories, but the location of this property is right. It's like a perpendicular to a lane behind those houses. So unlike many other cases we have seen, having a very direct connection with other backyard, they are basically facing garages. They're all parking garages in the back. So the expansion of the house, or the length of the house that the applicant is applying for, I don't think, I mean, I would say the lot location actually allows them to go to that length. Basically, the expansion will become the dead end of the lane. So personally, I think I can support the application as is.
You support it as is, okay. Yeah. And
I also agree with Eric because by deleting number 2 is not going to drastically improve the application to satisfy the next door neighbor's concern.
Okay. Any thoughts, Ms. Dell?
I only posed the question because the agent suggested they were going to delete the balcony, so I thought that meant they needed to delete the variance. I don't think the 3 feet beyond the adjacent neighbor for the addition is in any sense, onerous. We see a lot bigger additions happening, so I have no concerns with the application itself, generally speaking. I just thought if they were going to delete the balcony, they might as well delete that variance. But perhaps a privacy screen is the better way to go if the balcony is going to stay there and along the east side.
Well, that makes sense to me. So who'd like to
propose a motion to approve the application with a condition to add privacy screens around the balcony on the second floor?
Thank you. Second to that motion. Is there a second? It is seconded by Ms. Chan.
I'm sorry. Can I go back to your screening. You said around the balcony means all sides?
Yes.
All
Just because of the way the lot is perpendicular to the to the other backyards. I mean, it could be just the north and east, but I think all sides would make sense. And in terms of the streetscape, when you drive through the street, when you look into that, I think that makes sense too.
So
But if you disagree, then we can focus on just on the side with the neighbor.
Not too sure. You're creating a box, right? In that sense.
So probably we can go back. I can. Let me just go back to the northeast southwest of the plan. So
Aaron, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Please speak up a touch.
sorry, I was saying that I have to go back to the plan and try to find the direction of the floor plan. So I think we will only add it on the east side. Does that make
East
sense to you?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I
The
think,
screening is 1.5 meters on the east side of the balcony? Is that
Yes.
what you're proposing? Opaque screening, typical? Okay, that sounds fair.
Okay, so where we are now, we still need a second for Aaron's got a motion. Is there a second for it? The motion now involves screening on the east side of the second floor balcony. And that the motion is seconded by Ms. Chan with that condition. Moved and seconded to approve screening on the east side of the second floor balcony. Those in favor? That motion is carried. The application is so approved.
Thanks.
And panel moves along.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Panel moves along to 582 Ossington.
Through you, Mr. Chair, are we going to deal with the two deferral requests for
Pardon me.
items 38 and 39?
We are indeed going to deal with them now, as proposed some time ago by Ms. Chan. So let's do them now. Okay. We have two deferrals on this afternoon's, two deferral requests to deal with on this afternoon's agenda. So we're going to deal with those now to clear the agenda. Let's go to number 38 first. And on number 38 is the applicant with us, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Adam Ezer, E-Z-E-R. I'm a lawyer appearing as agent for the owners, Rabbi Shalom Lazel and his wife Devorah, and as counsel for Chabad for Danforth Lubavitch, the nonprofit Jewish institution planning to develop this property.
Thank you very much. Please just explain to the committee the reasoning, the reason you would like to defer.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. The main reason is that my client and the owners were only advised on September 21 of the need to comply with the urban design guidelines, SASP 466. So the City of Toronto had neglected to bring the requirements of that design guideline to our attention of our architect, Paul Shields. So we need to revise our drawings and submit them to Toronto. The city has agreed to defer. Basically, the status we're at is that the main concern of the adjacent property owner and some community members is maintaining the facade of the building facing Queen Street. So we put a design to the adjacent owner, which require work on their property as well. And it looks like we're not going to get consent there. So we need 1 to 2 weeks to put together revised drawings that comply with, as I understand completely, the urban design guidelines. There's going to be very minor setbacks compared to the original drawings. And we need about 1 month in total to be ready to go to a hearing. We don't know if there's need for more community consultation. We're only taking away from what we were asking. We're not adding anything extra. The building's going to be lower at this point. So in our submission, if there's availability, one would be enough.
To summarize, then you want to revise the application, generally with the view to making it less onerous. And does this also involve some consultation with the community?
That is correct. And the owners are reaching out to the people who expressed opposition. And when we have the new plans, we're going to go to those people specifically, do what we can to engage the community before the hearing.
Okay, so thank you. All right then, so just to explain to everybody, those that are standing by to speak, and to everyone, the process here is that the panel, the Committee of Adjustment, actually will make the decision whether or not to defer the application. I'm going to check now with the moderator to see how many speakers we have standing by to speak, and I'm going to just canvass those speakers, not for any in-depth thoughts about the application at all. I'm just going to canvass them as to their desire to either, one, hear the application now as it stands and decide on it, or two, to allow or to acquiesce to a deferral in order for the applicant to do what the agent just described. So let's start with the first speaker standing by and ask that speaker to join us, please, stating your name.
Karen Cleveland.
Hi there, Karen Cleveland.
Hi, Karen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to defer to the group on whether or not to speak now or wait until a better time later.
You're okay then. So you're happy with the idea of deferral. Thank you very much.
Yes.
That's all I need
Pleasure.
from you right now. Thank you. Okay, who's next?
Paul Nagy, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Paul Nagy here. Yes, I'm happy for the deferral as well.
Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it. Are there other speakers?
Brian Graff, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
We do hear you, Brian.
Okay. Yes, I'm happy to defer, although I don't know if a month would be enough given the depth of opposition and the amount of changes that would be required.
Well, yeah, and the committee can't make any guarantee as to how fast this will come back to Committee of Adjustment because of the backlog that we are dealing with. So it'll come back to the committee at such time as it filters its way through, and of course, as you say, as it's prepared and submitted. Okay, are there any further speakers, moderator?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just give me 1 minute. Edward Wilson, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello, Edward.
Hello?
Hello.
Am I being heard?
Edward, you are being heard. Just state your name.
Okay, my name is Ed Wilson. I am the adjacent property owner, 2275, so the attached of the semi-detached building.
Yes,
And I'm fine with the deferral. Yeah, that's good.
Very good. Thank you.
Provided there is consultation.
Well, consultation has been discussed with the agent, and they say they intend to do it. I think it would be very advisable for them
good.
to
I'm
follow.
good with that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay then.
Mr. Chair, that's all we have.
So we've been through all of the 4 speakers that were standing by, and they're all of the opinion that deferral is the way to go. So at that, the decision now becomes that of the Committee of Adjustment. So panel, you've heard the reasons for a deferral request, and you've heard what the speakers standing by think about the idea. I look to somebody for a motion, please. Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deferral makes sense in this case. I mean, the plans sounds like hopefully will be significantly altered, and they'll get some community support for them. On that basis, I think, and we've got support from the neighbors who have just called in, so I'd like to bring a motion for deferral.
Thank you. Second to that motion is Mr. Cheng. Moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor? Show of hands. That motion is carried. Unanimously decided to approve the deferral request on number 38.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, we go now to number 39A. 441 Concord. And we'll ask the agent first to join us.
Whoever has the phone number 647-883, you've been unmuted. I think that might be the agent. They just muted themselves. Hello, you can go ahead.
Hello.
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 Hello. State your name, please. Hello.
Sorry.
We do hear you.
Heidi Evangelista. Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
We hear you just fine. Thank you. You're with the committee now.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Please explain your reasoning for the deferral request.
Okay. Heidi Evangelista on behalf of 441 Concord. So we are asking for a deferral. The owner and I met with the neighbor, Mr. Justin Cho, on September 9th. He expressed concerns with what we were proposing in our development. We've gone back to the drawing board and we understand. And now, as I've just seen over the last few days, there are several letters of opposition. But I would like to just say that we have gone back to the drawing board. We've made changes. We're just now completing those changes to have to go back to zoning, and then we will meet up with the neighbors and just have a meeting with them just to show them what we are doing, because we've now taken a different direction.
Thank you very much. Sounds like good reasoning. Very good. Let's just check with those that are standing by, because we do have some registered speakers who were ready to proceed with the hearing. So, moderator.
Justin Cho, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I would oppose the deferral, to be honest. We spoke after she dropped off the letter over 3 weeks ago. The agent had said that they would provide additional information. I have not been contacted. Neither have any adjacent neighbors. They had actually personally reached out to the 2 neighbors across the street only, and no one else. And I think we've had conversations. I've stated the objection, and I think because of the opposition, over 35 letters of opposition and over 110 petition signatures have come to light. They're asking for that deferral currently, but yeah, so that's my.
Thank you very much.
My recommendation. Thank you.
Understood. Okay. Let's go to the next speaker. And speaker, we're simply asking you your intention here, or your preference, whether you'd like to see the application continue now and be heard and be decided upon as it stands, or whether you would be okay with the idea of deferring it to allow it to be revised and to have some community consultation take place. So, next speaker, please state your name.
That's Sheila Northey. You can go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I am uncomfortable about deferring for similar reasons to what Justin Cho stated. There has been ample opportunity prior to this time for the party to consult with people on the street and immediate neighbors, and nothing occurred. And this last minute representation of wanting to make changes is news to all of us. So I'm concerned that it is not being proposed in good faith.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next person standing by.
Walter Brooker, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Walter. Walter, we're simply wondering your thought on this. Would you like to see the application go ahead and be heard and decided on now, as it stands, by the committee?
Yes, I would.
Or would you prefer to see it deferred? What's your thought?
I would not like to see it deferred.
Thank you. You oppose deferral also. Moderator?
Guy Ewing, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I would not like to see it deferred.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, there we have it. Panel members, of the 4 speakers that were standing by,
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have more speakers standing by.
there are more speakers still?
Many, yeah. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
Pardon me.
It's the, do you have the next page?
This is 30, pardon me. Pardon me. I just have to catch up with the right spot here in the listing. And that won't take me long, but it'll take me a minute. Okay.
I believe we
This-
have, yes, I believe we still
Okay.
have 19 registered
Okay.
speakers.
Pardon me?
I believe we still have 19 registered speakers on the list.
There's still 19 registered speakers. Well, let's go ahead then and speak to some more registered speakers and see what we're hearing.
Eugene, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I do not like to see this deferred. It is an object to split the lot, and I don't see what they're going to redo that doesn't split the lot. And the essential problem is that splitting the lot is unacceptable.
Eugene, I've got to jump in there because we don't have, we simply do not have the luxury of time here to go into the details. I'm hearing you say that you oppose deferral. You want to hear it heard today. And that's all the only information I can, I have time to gather from you right now. I'm going to move. Yep. So I'm going to move now to the next speaker.
Linda Udelman, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello, Linda.
Hello. Hello, it's actually John Udelman.
Hi, John.
Linda's my wife. I would like to not have it deferred.
Thank you. That's, pardon my being so brief, but that's what we need to know. Okay.
Heather Morton, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi there. I also oppose the deferral.
Thank you, Heather.
Just a minute, Mr. Chair. Sarah Barker, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello, I also oppose the deferral.
Thanks, Sarah.
Marta Banziuk, I don't have the ability to unmute, but it looks like she is with us. Just 1 minute.
Why don't we come back to her and go on to the next one?
Sure. Eli Robiard, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Thank you. I would also accept a withdrawal of the application. I think it's the question of a variance on the street that would allow increased density basically against zoning that sets the precedent here we're trying to avoid. And so I would either say let's not defer or accept a withdrawal of the application.
Okay, there's no suggestion here that the applicant's going to withdraw the application, Eli. They'd like to defer it, but it's up to the committee to decide whether we defer or go ahead now. So I just need a sense from you whether you would support deferral.
I wouldn't see any material change in what we're objecting to, so we may as well have the discussion today.
You oppose deferral. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to check with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer here. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, at this stage we have, I have 9, every voice I've heard so far, nine speakers in a row have been consistent, unanimous in opposition to deferral. So would it be, in your view, would it be appropriate to take that as the viewer? Shall we go through all the speakers?
through you, Mr. Chair, I think because speakers have registered and they've
Okay.
taken the time, I
Yes.
think it would only be fair that we heard from everyone, as long as they know, more or less just to speak directly to the deferral, so it's a yes or a no, then we can get through them quickly.
I think that makes, I understand that, that makes sense. Let's go ahead. Okay, moderator, who's next?
David Michael, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yes, I'm against deferral as well.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Shauna Lane, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yes, I oppose the deferral as well.
Thank you, Shauna.
Roger Greenwald, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello, Roger.
oppose deferral.
You oppose deferral? Thank you. Very good.
Aletha Marshall, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi there, I oppose the deferral as well.
Thank you very much.
Lindsay Reeder, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I oppose.
Lindsay, thank you very much. I've recorded that.
Eli, we've already heard from. Graham Lang, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I oppose.
Thank you, Graham.
Daniel Schwartz, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I oppose deferral.
Thanks, Daniel.
And Tamara Daniel, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi, I apologize. This in the event said it started at, in the email we got, said it started at 4:30, not 4. I think that this proposal is fine. I don't know what it means to oppose or, because I
Okay,
missed that.
you're joining us now? Okay, just so you know, what we're doing right now, Tamara, is this. There has been a request by the applicant to have the application deferred to another hearing in the future in order to revise the detail and to consult. Now, so far, if you're just joining us now, so far I've spoken to something in the order of 13 speakers who had registered to speak to the application in opposition. All of them have opposed that concept. They said, let's go ahead and hear the application now. So I'm asking you whether you would, what your thought would be, whether you would like to hear the application now as it stands and it'll be decided on by the committee, or whether you would like to see it deferred.
Okay, I'm happy to hear it now. I oppose the deferral.
Thank you. Okay, that does wrap up the list.
Mr. Chair, we just have a few more people who have joined us since we started the beginning of the list, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. They'll have to state their names, I think, because I don't think they're on my...
Jahan Baby, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
This is Jean Babi. I oppose the deferral as well.
Thank you so much.
Marta Baziak, we still cannot get in touch with. Suzanne Skinner, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I also oppose the deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just 1 minute, please.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everybody that we've had registered and who's present.
Okay. Okay, then, I'm ready to make my report to the panel members. Panel, we spoke to 17 registered speakers who were standing by, and they were unanimous in opposing the request to defer saying they would prefer to hear the application go forward now to a motion and a decision as it stands. The decision on whether to defer, of course, or not to defer, and to hear the application today is up to the panel. So I'll look to panel members, please, for a motion. Yes, Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's 11. I think that we cannot. I do not think as a member can have a choice not to defer, not to hear it. And then if everybody else is ready to have to discuss this case, I will move a motion to refuse the deferral request. But my question is, if that's been approved, are we going back to item number 30? And then this item will be in line after we deal with the previous ones.
Very good question, by the way. The question is whether we hear it now or go back to number 30.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, can we confirm that the variances that are listed, that there's nothing that is missing from those variances? Because then this may be a situation of improper notification, because not all the correct variances have been identified. So could we go back to the agent, Ida, to confirm that before we move on? And then what I would suggest is that we go back to item 30.
Okay, so Ida did not make any suggestion as to there being missing variances, but I will. We can go back to her and put the question.
Mr. Chair.
Is that Ida Evangelista?
This is Ida. This is Ida. Mr. Chair and member, I would like to state, so two things. One, I did do a reach out to the neighborhood. That's one, first and foremost, and the members know that I do that all the time.
No, Ida, I have a question for you. That's all I want to deal with now. My question to you is this. With respect to the application that is before us now, that has been distributed, that all the panel members are looking at, are there any missing variances on that? This question has been raised by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. That you know of, are there any missing variances?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, there are missing variances on the current hearing notice as you have in front of you. We have just been informed of that, and at the same time we were changing the application in its entirety. So
that's a separate matter.
That's where we stand right now.
Okay.
I cannot go ahead with this application as it is in front of you, as there is a missing variance.
Okay, I'm going to ask you what the missing variance is.
Parking.
Parking.
That's correct.
Okay, and in your opinion, how did the parking variance get missed?
The zoning examiner actually missed the parking variance and missed the height variance, corrected the height variance. Unfortunately, the parking variance was not corrected. And at the same time, when this just came to light last week, we've been working feverishly trying to change the application in its entirety, not having, and just having single family dwelling units, and that's where we're at right now.
That is okay. Fine, thank you very much. That's a separate matter entirely, completely a separate matter.
Correct.
My concern now is for the 17. Excuse me. Could you mute the agent, please? My concern now is for the 17 registered speakers who have taken time and trouble to attend this meeting virtually, express their opinion about deferral, and I'm just at this stage now finding out that, in fact, the existing application is actually missing a variance which should have been included in the distribution. So to all those that are listening, we're not talking here about any revision to the application. We're talking about a missing variance on the application as it stands that, in fact, even if there had been no suggestion of a revision, that variance being omitted would have made it improper for the committee to go ahead and to hear this application now, because that variance would not have been distributed properly in advance according to all the rules. So that's pure, am I right where we stand, Madam? Okay, so the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has confirmed that that's where we do stand, panel. So let's take, we'll now take it into committee. And go ahead, Ms. Chan, we're in committee now.
Yes, I just would like to suggest something, whether it will work or not. Just listen out. What about the applicants already talking about we submit an entire different scheme, and also there are a lot of opposition for the deferral. What about we just ask the applicant whether they're willing to withdraw this application?
Suggestion to ask the applicant to withdraw this application, yeah? Yeah?
That's the alternative.
I like that idea. Any thoughts on that, people? Aaron?
I think a deferral, I understand that we heard about the argument or the opinions from the neighbors, but the applicant also has the right to change the design and update and right now the problem is there is a missing variance and the notice that has been distributed to the neighborhood, so they deserve the right to defer. And that's something, basically our hands are tied, so I don't know.
Well, they're not tied if...
I mean, we can suggest it to the applicant to...
We can suggest it. We can...
But we cannot enforce it.
No.
Even if it's a deferral, I don't think we have a choice not to accept it.
Oh, I do agree. I'm not going to say force it to them, but why I'm suggesting that it seems to be less misleading if the applicant is going to submit an entirely different design. And I thought that maybe it would just be more clear that they are not going to make revisions based on the earlier submission. And if they actually talking about an entire different scheme. So this is only a suggestion.
It's an interesting suggestion. Any thoughts on that, Ms. Valentini?
I suppose it's up to the applicant to decide whether or not they're willing to withdraw. I'm not sure that's, you know, I agree with Mr. Chang. If we know there's a variance missing, I don't think we can go proceed with the application in any event. It was a different matter 15 minutes ago when we were just talking about, you know, whether they wanted to defer because they wanted to change the application, but we know even proceeding with the application isn't possible without all the proper variances before us. So on that basis, I agree with Mr. Chang and think the deferral, we have no choice. But anyway.
Okay. So I'm prepared to go back to the applicant here and now and offer the opportunity to withdraw, and we'll see if that's to her liking. If she says it is not, then we can return to this discussion and move on. But let's go back to the applicant now, if you're done with the applicant. Ms. Evangelista?
Yeah?
I'm offering you if you want to, the option is there for you to entirely withdraw the application as it stands. Is that of any interest to you?
Withdraw the application as in close it down and lose my money?
That's the question.
Is that what that means?
That's the question.
No, sir.
You're not?
No,
okay.
Mr. Chair, we do want to modify the application, so we would like the opportunity to defer.
Thank you. Let's go back into committee. Okay, we've asked that question, and it was worth asking, but the answer is no. So, it's now up to the committee to come up with a motion now on the request to defer. Who would like to make a motion on this one?
To make a motion for a deferral. The reason is because the variance in front of us is not accurate, and we cannot have enough information to hear the case.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? That motion is seconded by Ms. Valentini.
And just to qualify, it's seconded because of the missing variance. I just want that to be clear, as Ms. Chan had said. The fact that the variances are missing, I don't think we can proceed.
Okay. So
That's the reason I'm seconding it.
let the record show that there's a motion to defer. It's been seconded in order to complete the application with the missing variances identified. Very good. Moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor? That motion is carried. The application is so deferred. And with that, the panel is going to move back to where we were in the numerical sequence of applications. We'll be going back to number 30, 582 Ossington Ave. And on 582 Ossington, there's applicant materials, a 22 signature petition in support, signed by owners and occupants on Ossington. And in opposition, there's a piece of correspondence from Andrew and Anna Mederick at 584 Ossington, which would appear to be next door to the subject property. Okay. Okay. So we'll ask the agent to join us on 582 Ossington.
Hello, it's David Riley from SGL Planning, address 1547 Bloor Street West. Hi, everyone.
Very good. Okay, David. And let me check with the moderator. Do we have a registered?
Yes.
Are the Madericks? Yep.
Yes,
Are
Mr. Chair.
standing
We
by?
have
Okay.
one other person registered to speak. I'm just going to double check that they are still here.
Okay. All right, David, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Please go ahead.
I just went on there. Oh, okay, now I'm unmuted. There we go. So this is a proposal to alter the existing 3-story, 3-unit semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story rear addition, and also to legalize and maintain the 2nd-story rear covered deck. I understand, just before I get into the variances, I understand that there was some correspondence submitted from a neighbor, which I've read, of course, that letter. And this letter indicates specific items that need to be addressed on the plans. So I spoke with the architect about these items, and it's my understanding that none of these matters affect any of the variances before the committee today. But I just wanted to speak to them quickly. Generally, there were, as I understand, constraints when the architect and his team went out measuring, and they couldn't get all of the detailed measurements on the roof, as they couldn't access the roof. So some of the existing features, I guess there's some discrepancy in some of the measurements. But regardless, these matters, of course, will have to be addressed in the building permit drawings, but they do not affect any of the variances. So the correspondence from the neighbor also addressed a number of other matters that do not relate to the variances, but of course are matters that will be addressed and need to be addressed through the building permit application to ensure that there's no off-site impacts. And I understand they have some concerns with respect to drainage or proximity to of the chimney, for example. But anyways, I'll get into the variances now. So 3 variances are required. The first variance is for maximum building height, where the proposed height is 10.3 meters, whereas the maximum permitted is 10. This 10.3 meters is reflective of the height of the proposed rear 3rd-story addition. This is lower than the actual overall height of the existing dwelling that's further ahead of it, that existing 3rd-story portion, so I just wanted to note that. And the second variance is for maximum floor space index, where maximum is 0.69 FSI and proposed is 0.95. And just for the committee's consideration, the existing FSI of this dwelling is actually already at 0.89. So the proposal is really only for an additional 13 square meters, which is 140 square feet on the 3rd floor only. So in my opinion, there's really no impact of the proposed addition, which is proposed to be quite set back from that 2nd story below it, and does not extend past the rear walls of the lower floors of either adjacent dwelling to the north or south. And the third variance relates to minimum rear yard landscaping. The proposed is 23%. Currently, there is no rear yard landscaping, so through this application, it's a way to formalize the rear, provide for a walkway, but also add in some soft landscaping. So it really will be adding 26.6 square meters of soft landscaping. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Maybe we'll go to the speakers first and hear what they have to say in opposition. Okay.
Andrew Matarak, you've been unmuted.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Am I muted?
No, you are loud and clear. Just state your name.
Andrew Matarak from 584 Ossington Avenue.
Good afternoon. You're now with the panel. We hear you clearly. You have 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Myself and my sister, we've inherited the house, and we still are there for almost 40 years. The neighbor just seems to have always, and maybe it's my fault and not, I wasn't calling the building committee, building permit committee to complain about everything that was done. I did quite an extensive details of what the issues are. There's been major structural changes to the building without permits. There's, as my submission, there is the material errors in the building, easily accessible, the roof and so forth, to do the measurements. The chimney is going to be a wood-burning stove, and it is not permitted within 10 foot of a window, so that chimney would have to be modified. It creates basically a point where we can't use the existing chimney because of their addition. I added some measurements there to give you some heights. The other thing, the landscape, as the spokesperson for the owner said, it was 0. The reason it was 0 because they removed all the landscape. They undermined our property by about 16 inches, and they put down AstroTurf. This is just the way they behave, unfortunately. So in actual fact, they removed the landscape to show that there is none, to now add it back. And the existing garage also, I sent pictures. It's actually, there was a metal garage there, but there was an addition added to it. And after the addition was added to it, they put a second story on top of that shed. So, as you could see, point C, 2C, that's a laneway view and a view from the second story back window from our property. So they just seem to build up and then apply for things and pretend that there's, oh, we're trying to comply, but this is what I've lived there for years with. So by also allowing that extension, two-story addition on an ancillary building, they could come back now for a building application and build a monstrosity of a garage and say, well, that was existing conditions. So I think there's some deception, maybe this particular spokesman is not aware of. My concern for snow loading, the picture also there with showing the chimney, basically his sidewall would go all the way to the chimney, so it cuts off the view. There's already a bit of a cutoff view because of the second story covered veranda. And I know it's probably not in under the Committee of Adjustment, but there's structural concerns with the building and the adjacent wall. That is, you know, what I'd like you to consider, especially the variance in the landscape. It's simply, they put astroturf on top of it, they removed the soil, put astroturf, and then claimed that they're improving it, where in actual fact their buildings are ever so creeping towards getting rid of all landscape back there. And the structural issue with the concrete slab, there's a 4-inch block cinder wall, so it's 3.5 inch. It's partially on wood, so there's just a lot of structural things that I think should be addressed anyway. So I don't know if you would recommend I go to the building department or what recourse I have with this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. And any questions for Andrew? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I too have a question about this speaker with the chimney. And I do understand there's a directly impact that you might not be able to use the chimney because the addition will go higher than your chimney. Is that right?
That's right. The addition will be at the same level. It's required to be at least 3 feet above.
Yes.
And I think there's a bylaw, part of the burning that it has to be within 10 feet of window, and their window would be within about 1.5 meters.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have you talked to them whether they can give you a resolution for that or something to give them?
I've spoke with the neighbors over the years. I was speaking with them in the summer, and this was when we received, my sister and I, this proposed zoning variance. It was a shock to us because we spoke to them and we saw them, and they never told us about anything that they were doing. And there's, I have to say that the owner, Germano, was accusing me of reporting him to the building department. You could check the records that's simply not true.
That's not
so
what
they refused to talk to me.
Yeah. My concern is legitimately real. The impact is because you have to find a solution for that. Is the chimney related to your fireplace, or is the only heating?
That would be a wood-burning stove chimney.
And then is the heating source that you depend on?
No, it's a backup source. We've had some power outages and it gets cold in the winter, so we wanted a backup source.
Is the backup? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back now to the applicant.
Hello.
And applicant, the issues that were raised by your neighbor involved the chimney placement. You would have heard his concern there. And also he raised a concern about, which you had alluded to this, about the deficient soft landscaping in the rear. Is it your intention to replace that with AstroTurf or with legitimate soil or other soft landscaping?
So with respect to the landscaping, it's my understanding that that it actually was concrete, and I'm not sure exactly what's gone on now, but the proposal is actually for landscaping, soft landscaping, not AstroTurf. As for many of the other concerns related to structural, I think this is a good opportunity. These plans will have to go to the building department for a building permit review. It's a way to clean up a lot of the stuff. There was a second-story roof built over the second-story veranda, for example, without a permit, which is part of this to legalize and to make sure that it is structurally sound. So really, this is looking at cleaning up, I think, a lot of the matters that were brought up. And with respect to the chimney, it's my understanding that I don't know the details, the building code details, but I do know that this will certainly have to be something that will have to pass in order to be constructed according to conformity with the building code. So I know that will certainly be something that is looked at there, but it isn't really related to any of the variances, so I can't really speak to the detail with respect to the chimney, but I do know it's something that will need to be considered for sure, particularly with respect to if it's located close to a window. I'm not sure the details of where their chimney is, but that'll certainly have to be looked at.
Okay. Panel, any further questions for the agent?
Can I go back to the question about chimney? Although it's a building code, it's definitely a building code issue. I understand that, but on the other hand, if you approve it, it does create an impact on the next door neighbor. And at least I thought that you might have some kind of even a rough idea for a solution that you can share with us. Otherwise, I just feel that it's been ignored, and then what possible way you can resolve the cost impact?
So I wouldn't be able to speak exactly to this because I actually don't know what the requirement is in terms of the building code. I don't know if their chimney needs to be higher or if it's a proximity to the window. I don't actually know if there is an issue or not. So I can't really speak to that. It really is a building code matter that will have to be addressed. All I know is that it doesn't generate any variances.
Yes. None of the variances appear to be associated directly with that, so. Okay. Okay then, panel. If there are no further questions for the applicant, let's take the application into committee. We may not need to discuss it much, but if we do, we can, and we can move toward a motion. Is anyone ready for a motion at this stage? Then
I just would like to
have
make
some
a
discussion.
comment. I agree with what Ms. Chan was saying about the impact. I mean, yes, in terms of size of the addition, I don't think there's, in terms of impact, necessarily because of that, but there is impact if it's going to affect the chimney. I don't know if staff can let us know if they'll get a building permit if there's an issue with the chimney. Maybe none of us know that, but I do have concerns now about the chimney and how that's going to impact the neighbor, because I think that does speak to the impact on the neighbor. I agree with what Ms. Chan was saying.
I'm just.
Yeah, I am concerned with the impact only because they should at least address it. I'm not trying to say that we resolve it in terms of solving building code issues, and I actually do know what the requirements are. That's why I'm a little bit concerned, because by correcting your own chimney is sort of easier. By correcting someone else's chimney, that's also an impact too, in terms of you have to raise the height, you have to above the roof line, and also 10 feet away from any other roof. So that kind is a complex issue. I do not think that I can just go by say there's no impact on the neighbor. I just cannot say that. With my experience, I know it will have some kind of impact.
Well, let's put this question then to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Would this chimney placement issue have been something that
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is a building code matter that's not before us.
So it is a building code matter that is not before us. So when they're going for a permit, I think we can take some solace in the fact that they will, you know, if there is an issue there, the issue will be dealt with at permit time. We are dealing with the three variances. So we can refuse or we can approve. I'll look to panel for a motion as to what we should do.
I'm so sorry to put you on this spot. It is a building code issue. It's not in front of us. But what I'm trying to say is, even during the building code process, if they do not draw that chimney of the next door neighbor, it will be missed. They do not need to draw the part that belongs to someone else. So I'm just worried about that. So I'm not in support of any approval, but if someone have a motion approval, then I will dissent. But if I have to make a motion, I will refuse because.
Well, you're thinking about a motion to approve. We could amend that. The motion to approve could contain reference to this chimney placement issue. That could be a. We could approve subject to review of the chimney placement with respect to the neighboring existing wood stove chimney placement. Would that be a reasonable thing to add? We're advised against that by the.
Ms. Chan, how would you like the chimney to be limited to? So let's say if you're going to approve it, given the chimney situation is resolved, how would you like the chimney to be restricted to in terms of height, in terms of size, and we add a condition that.
I'm not sure what the question is, but I do not think we can put the conditions on that because it doesn't belong to them, right?
And the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has just confirmed that. The Deputy Secretary Treasurer has confirmed we shouldn't do what I suggested, so forget that idea.
And I'm just simply saying that I cannot support the approval motion if anyone put forth approval motion. I'm not in support of the application, that's all.
Well, maybe the application, I'll put it to you, maybe the application, what we're thinking then is to refuse it. Those are the two options, we have those two options. We can refuse it, and we can approve it. So we just need to put a motion forward that reflects our thinking on it.
So I guess I'll make some comment. I really don't see a problem of this application. So if somebody propose a objection, I would not second. And yeah, I guess we'll always have someone to make a proposal, and then we can just vote and see how it goes, rather than wait and see.
Are you making a motion to approve, Mr. Chang?
I am making a motion to approve.
Okay, so we now have a motion to approve by Mr. Cheng. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Cheng does not have a second. The motion fails. I now need another motion. Ms. Cheng.
Okay, I move a motion for approval, for refusal, sorry. The reason is that I believe the variances that, although not minor, but they do have some impact, serious impact to the next door neighbor.
Thank you. Okay, motion to refuse is, and there is a second to that motion by Ms. Valentini. So moved and seconded to refuse. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Those opposed. And let the record show that Mr. Cheng opposes the motion. So it is moved and carried. The application is refused. At this point, we're going to recess for a 10-minute break. It's now 10 past 5. We'll resume at 20 past 5. Thank you. And we resume. The panel now is considering agenda item number 31, 72 Whistle Post Street. On this application we have before us the materials submitted by the applicant. There's a staff report from Urban Forestry dated 29 September. And we do have opposition correspondence from 81 Whistle Post Street dated 28 September. Okay, so we'll ask the agent to join us now by stating your name, please.
Hi, Mr. Chair and panel members. My name is Mosa, and I am the representative and the designer for the subject property.
Good afternoon. Okay. So, panel, on this application there are no speakers in opposition registered. So you can go to questions directly, or if you would like, we can have a presentation. Are there any questions for the applicant? If not, we can move right to a motion if you wish.
Mr. Chair, just had one quick question. Are there any other basement walkouts in the area? Just out of curiosity.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Any other basement walkouts in the area?
Yes, we have seen at least one.
Okay, now I'll just bring up the issue of there is one letter in opposition, which I made reference to, and that letter is making the comment that the neighborhood is predominantly single family, and that in the writer's opinion that would be a good way to keep it. Just let me ask you, so your unit or your proposal will result in how many dwelling units?
Additional one, existing one at the main and second, third, and additional one secondary unit at the basement.
Total of 2.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Okay then. If there are no further questions, then Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
I'm happy to jump in and bring a motion, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to know if there were other walkouts. I don't think it's a predominant feature, but there are other walkouts, and we often planning will weigh in if they feel that this is not an appropriate thing, and we've heard nothing from them. I think that this is a minor application. I don't think there'll be any impact by the proposed walkout, and in response to the correspondence and objection, basement units are permitted. So I think that's a good thing to add extra rental accommodations in the city. So I'm bringing a motion forward for approval of the application.
Thank you. That is seconded by Ms. Chan. You've moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor?
Sorry, is the forestry condition number 1?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've missed that. Yes, thank you.
Forestry does apply. Thank you. Okay, were you seconding, Ms. Chan? You were raising a question. I actually want you to say, and you are seconding now. Okay. So the application is moved and seconded, subject to forestry. Let's just do the vote one more time, please. For those in favor, motion carried. Application approved, subject to forestry. Thank you. Item number 32 is 40 Ashland Ave. And here we've got the applicant's materials. We've got a staff report from Urban Forestry, and we have opposition correspondence, which comes from 41 Ashland, 36, 38 Ashland, 42 Ashland from Kerry Franklin, and 42 Ashland from Paul Davey. So, let's go and have the... Okay, there's no correspondence on this in opposition, but we do have 2 registered speakers in opposition. All right, fine. So let's go and bring the agent, or the owner apparently, into the meeting. So please state your name and join the meeting.
Brandon Jakubowski, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, sorry. My name is Brendan Jakubowski. I'm the owner and resident of 40 Ashland. I believe our agent and architect is also on the line, Rock Kim.
Okay. Well, who's going to make your presentation, Brendan?
I think Rock will start out for us, and I'd like a chance to just speak to some of the opposition, either before or after any other speakers.
Well, we do have 2 speakers in opposition, so the way we'll proceed is that your designated person will have 5 minutes to present the application to the panel, and after that we'll be hearing from the 2 speakers registered in opposition. So let's go ahead now with your designated person to present the application.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do hear you. Please state your name.
My name is Rock Kim. I'm the agent of the 40 Ashland Avenue.
Could you give us your full name, please?
Rock Kim. Rock is my first name.
Thank you. Very good. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Go ahead now.
Yeah, we are trying to make the existing house and ground and second floor is actually 1,250 square feet. It's a very small house, so the owner wants to make the 3rd floor additional space, living space for more bedroom for their families. And then we got the objection. Actually, the owner talked to the 38 right beside of the neighbor, and then they're worrying about the engineering, like the code issues, engineering stuff. So I think that'll be fine. But the on their neighbor, 11 Ashland, 12 Ashland, and 14 Ashland, they already have the 3rd floor addition. So I think it's not really, and then we are not changing any front backgate. We're just changing the addition at the top of the back side. So I think this is a very minor variance. Any question?
You have 5 minutes to make your presentation, so we're not going to interrupt you. Carry on with your...
Yeah, that's all for now.
That's all you want to say? Okay.
Yeah, and then the owner actually wants to say.
Okay, fine. So
yeah,
we'll start the clock on the owner.
Okay, hello again. Can everyone hear me all right?
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of give a brief background on what we're looking to do here. The intention is obviously to add a 3rd floor. I have a growing family and we need the space for bedrooms for children. We considered a lot of different options in getting to this, and I really believe that this is the least obtrusive option to the rest of the neighbors in our area. I have had several discussions with both 38 and 42 Ashland, and I have to, understand and respect the concerns that are brought up on both sides. I have complete faith in the City of Toronto Building Inspections Department's ability to vet whatever engineering concerns or waterproofing concerns there might be from the neighbors. So I won't necessarily speak to that. As far as any, sunlight privacy concerns, we are open to making concessions if there were any concise concessions brought forward that the neighbors were looking for. I wasn't able to get that from either 38 or 42 Ashland. However, I would still consider the door open to that conversation as need be. And I believe that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And will that be the end of your team presentation?
I think so.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, then let's carry on to the registered speakers with the first one, please.
Louise Buttle, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Can you hear me?
You're a little bit faint. Can you speak a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, I'll try. Give me a moment. I'll put my speaker on. Can you, testing, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that I did submit a letter that was stamped as received. So if you could check that. And I believe when I looked at supporting documentation, there were 5 letters. But perhaps I misheard you when you said.
I'm going to ask you. You were still faint when you gave us your name, so please restate your name.
Louise Buttle, 36 Ashland.
Yes, Louise, we have your letter here, received on the 21st of September.
Thank you so much. Before I begin, may I begin?
Go ahead, please. You have 5 minutes to address the panel.
On the application form that I saw online, I believe there were a couple of errors. There was a date of construction of the building or structures on the subject property that was identified as 1950, the year 1950. But I know for a fact that it was built between 1916 and 1915 and was first inhabited in 1917. So that was wrong. I believe also that the date of acquisition by Leanne and Brendan was stated as 2010, but I believe that they bought in 2017. So I thought perhaps that should be corrected.
Okay. Louise, tell us how the variances will impact you and your property.
Yes. So 36 to 40 Ashland Avenue is a residential structure that was built, as I said, around 1915 and 16, comprised of 3 separate units that have subsequently been lived in since 1917, and basically there have been no changes since that time. So you can see by my letter that I'm stating that the proposed additional height of the 3rd story and extended roof line on the south side elevation, in our opinion, would destroy the architectural symmetry of the building as a whole. And although there may be a couple of other detached homes on the street that have 3rd story, I do not believe that there are any attached row or semi-detached that have 3 stories. So we also believe that the 3rd addition will block light access to our backyard, impact our enjoyment of the outdoor space and our well-being. And we also believe that the 3rd story addition, there might be a problem with the roof, with the extension of the 3rd floor, prevailing west winds coming up and having the snow and the rain pounding against the addition, especially when it comes to thawing, even though that will impact number 38 mostly, it could eventually, because our roof is so close to number 38, impact ours as well. And so we would ask that if you decide as panel to, or committee, to approve the variance, that the original submission be reviewed with the goal of keeping the vision of an unaltered roof line on the south side of the building. And so we suggest that the roof extension angle could be changed so that the proposed roof extension and skylight not be visible from the street. However, I guess in summary, we respectfully request, although we understand Brendan and Leanne want the extra room, that the Committee of Adjustment refuse the proposal for a 3rd story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for Louise? Okay, no, hearing none, we'll go on to the next speaker who is registered.
Tara Lindley, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi there, how are you? Can you hear me?
We hear you, Tara. Yes, we hear you clearly. You have 5
Okay.
minutes.
Hi, I actually don't have a lot to add to what Louise just, alluded to, other than like light and privacy. I had talked to Brandon about the privacy issue, and he had mentioned, removing the back window that would overlook my backyard. So that is something that I would be, open to. And, my main concern is that I am attached from basement to second floor, and the renovations have been ongoing in their home for over 18 months. And, it's, another, I guess, 6 months plus of more renovations. And I'm also concerned about like the snow and ice buildup on my flat roof, and therefore the runoff. And yeah, I mean, I just wanted to reiterate, yeah, there are no other homes that are attached that have third floor extensions. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you. Panel,
Thank you.
any questions? Hearing none? Okay. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
We shall go back now to the owner, Brendan. And Brendan, so we've listened to the two speakers. Perhaps it sounds like you've spoken to both of them, perhaps.
That's correct.
But the concerns that we'd ask you to address would be the fact that this will be the only detached house on the street or nearby with 3 stories, and won't fit from that point of view. They would prefer that if there is a 3rd story, that it not be visible. The roof line would be look unaltered from the street level. And one person, Tara, was taking you up on your offer. She said you had offered to remove a rear window to reduce her concern about overlook and privacy issues. And so she would like to see that happen. So if you could address those issues, please.
Absolutely. As far as the window, I'll start there because I think that's an easier one to deal with. No issue for me to either remove or relocate the rear window, so it's no longer facing Tara's backyard. I think that's a very reasonable request on her part. As far as the overall aesthetic of the building, I believe both callers are correct. There are no attached dwellings on the street that have a 3rd floor extension. Having said that, the street itself is quite a mishmash of different architectural styles, from this kind of turn of the century to the late 70s immediately next to us. So I don't really feel that it's going to degrade the neighborhood, so to speak. We could look at changing the front roof line. To be honest, I don't know, to what extent you would be able to make this not visible at all from the street.
Let's have a look at the front elevation, if we may, please. Front elevation, so we'll just get a sense of
the intention
as proposed.
Was merely to carry the existing roof line, to try and keep it as minimal as possible, the change. Again, if there's if there's a suggestion that keeps everybody happy, I'm open to it. But I don't know that it would actually be physically possible to make this not at all visible from the front. And I think that making the change happen in the roof line is probably the least obtrusive of the different options versus having a vertical face pushed back further.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair, unless he has further stuff to add?
Ms. Valentini first, followed by Mr. Chang. Go ahead with your questions, please.
Thank you. Can you give me an idea of how, in terms of FSI, your request, how that fits in with the neighborhood?
To be blunt, no, I couldn't speak to specific numbers for FSI. I believe all of the dwellings on the street are relatively narrow lots. There have been substantial rear additions to the back of several houses directly across from us.
Okay.
Next to 41, I believe it'd be 39 Ashland. It's roughly doubled the square footage of the original house with a rear extension. In terms of what we were looking at with this, the intention, although yes, FSI would be increased, the intention was not to change any of the green space that's there, or to take up any additional square footage of drainage surface.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chen, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, hi. I just have a question about item number 1 and item number 2, and I want to see how you understand the reasoning of those two bylaws. So the first one basically limits the maximum height of the building. The second one limits the maximum height of the side walls. So my understanding of this kind of bylaws is they basically want to maintain a certain form, where the building will stop at 7.5 meters and start to slope up. And that's the general look or form that the city was looking for. And what you are designing, you can see that even though you call your third floor as an attic, but your position price is calling a third floor, which obviously is a third floor. So how would you justify this move, deviate from this general form, and how would you justify it as a minor application so that we can understand it better?
I guess my justification for that would be, trying to respect that front roof line as much as possible, and not making any changes at the 7.5 meter level, at least on the viewed front facade of the house. So that was the intention of, again, trying to minimize the visual impact of this. As far as the general size of the structure, again, we felt that it would be a little bit less intrusive to try and build upwards rather than requesting permission to extend backwards into the north of the lot, which I thought would be a less favorable option in terms of sunlight and privacy. As we are a south-facing unit, we do get the morning sunlight. So my concern would actually be a greater impact were we to go further north to the existing, certainly the privacy and absolutely the sunlight as well.
I do see that you have a 45-degree plot at the front.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Chan, go ahead. Your question.
It's not too much of a question. I just want to, maybe if I'm wrong, please tell me. Where is number 1? You notice that they're talking about 1 millimeter. The maximum height will be a height of 10.01 meter, which means it's 1 millimeter they're asking for. I don't think it should even be there, but I just try to point that out, is that they're not asking for very much. Do you understand me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I did. They're not asking for a great deal. No, it's not a huge variance.
It's 1 millimeter. I do not even think that you can justify as a variant, but because maybe they have very high tech measurement to tell 1 millimeter difference. But it's okay. I just want to point that out.
It certainly would stand as the tiniest variance we have encountered in today's hearing. I'm going to ask staff to put up the rear elevation for a moment, please. And I have a question for the applicant about that. Okay. Okay, applicant, with respect to your willingness to remove a back window, could you tell us which window it is?
Absolutely. So this rear elevation doesn't quite show, but you're actually looking at two different aspects of the house. The set of windows on the left-hand side of that drawing is stepped back, I want to say about 11 feet from the rear face of the building, which you can see in plan view. So the one that I believe concerns Ms. Lindley from 38 Ashland, there you go, that's the side profile, you can kind of see the step back there, is the window at the top right. And what I had suggested, so if we go to the rear elevation again, the top right window there where it's dimensioned 6 foot of height, what I'd suggested was we could either take that window and essentially turn it into a transom. So we'd kind of shrink the vertical dimension of that window and leave it higher. So we still get natural light into the room, but no ability to overlook anything in the backyard. Or indeed, we could turn it to the east side of that bedroom. So we could put it on the east side instead, thus completely eliminating the concern of Ms. Lindley.
How about making that window just opaque?
I would be fine with that as well. In the course of the aforementioned renovations we've already done on the second floor, we actually did that with the rear window in an effort for, I guess, both of us to maintain privacy. So the window directly below that one is a frosted lower and an open kind of a, I don't know, clear glazed upper apron style window.
Okay. So I think with respect to capturing that change in the simplest possible way, but achieving the goal, simply making the glass opaque will be the way to do it. And we could identify that by this. Which side elevation is that on? It's on the. Is it on the? It's on the.
This was the north. We're looking at the north elevation now.
But that window you were pointing to is actually on the east side elevation, isn't it?
No, I'm saying if it was an option that could be entertained, we could move it to the east, but it's currently shown on the north side.
I'm looking at the north side, and you're telling me it's not there. I'm sorry.
I'm saying that it is currently, well, nothing's there right now, but on the plan view, it is currently on the north side. If that's giving the neighbors cause for concern due to privacy, then we could happily suggest moving it from its current location on the north elevation to the eastern elevation of the house.
I remain confused. So at the risk of belaboring this point, I'm now looking at the north elevation. You're saying that the window is on the north elevation, but you can't point it out to me.
No, that's correct. You are circling the exact window right now as we speak.
Oh, that's the window.
That is the window.
Oh, well, that's what I was asking. Okay, so that's the window that is the window that could provide the overlook issue.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so any further questions for the applicant? There being none, let's take the application into committee and move toward a motion. Who'd like to go first? Anyone ready with a motion, or we can discuss it if you like? Go ahead, Ms. Chan. Go ahead.
Is it me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can start. Actually, I don't have any problem with this proposal, and I think that it is trying to work with the neighborhood, and I do agree that there's different kinds of building form in the neighborhood, and the opposition for the first floor, it seems that more like about architectural style, is to do with the density, and with the increase, it's still a moderate size house, and I do not have any problem. And also, it seems that the applicant is trying to address some issues for the next door neighbor. And I'm ready to move for approval, subject to forestry condition number 1. And I think that's the only condition, I guess.
Very good.
Yeah.
So is there a second to that motion? That motion is seconded by Ms. Valentini. Moved and seconded to approve, subject to just forestry?
forestry, 2, no, number 1, sorry, forestry. No.
Forestry 1. Those in favor, show of hands. Motion is carried. The application is so approved. We move along to number 33, on which we begin our 3:30 p.m. segment. And this is 1540 DuPont Street. On 1540 DuPont, the committee has before it the following: applicant's materials as submitted, cover letter by the agent, presentation materials from the agent dated 16 September. Okay. And on this application, we'll ask the agent to join us by stating your name.
My name is Bernard Watt, and I have an office at 3 Falls Avenue.
Thank you very much. I'm going to see if our panel members have any questions for you, Bernard. There are no questions for you. Who is ready to move forward with a motion? Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to thank the agent, Mr. Watt, for his letter. I think it was very helpful in terms of explaining the variances and emphasizing the fact that the building actually, as proposed, fits within the as-of-right building envelope. He's asking just for a increase in FSI, and he's also noted that there's a parking variance, there's permit parking available in the area. So I'm satisfied that this variance meets the 4 tests. I don't see there being any negative impact associated with it. That being said, I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application, and I don't see any conditions, so no conditions.
Seconded by Mr. Chang.
Second, and I just want to add that I'm very impressed by the massing of the building at the street corner. It looks very cool. It's a very good building.
Thank you. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? That motion is carried by a unanimous vote, and the application is approved. Number 34 has been withdrawn. We move to number 35. Number 35 is 903.5 Bathurst Street. And on 903.5 Bathurst, before the committee are the submitted materials and support correspondence, 3 form letters. They arise, or they come from 903, 932, 905 Bathurst, and were all received before the 20th of September. And on this application, we'll ask the agent to join us, please.
Hi there, it's David Riley, SGL Planning. Happy there's no chimney on this one, guys. No chimneys to worry about.
Okay, David, thank you. All right, now, panel members on this application, any questions for the agent, David? Mr. Chang?
No, I don't. I just want to make a motion.
Oh, go ahead, make a motion, please.
I've read all the materials, and I think the numbers is very reasonable as it is on the main road of Bathurst. I think it is a good intensification project, and I fully support to approve it.
Motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Chan. Thank you. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? Motion carried. So that application is approved. And that takes the panel to number 3619 Browning. On 19 Browning, we have before us applicant's materials. And there is a group of 9 form letters in support that have been received. They come from 12, 17, 21, 22, 25, 27, and 33 Browning, plus one from 8 Bathurst and one from 103 Ellerbeck. And we'll ask the agent now to join the panel by stating your name, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Angus Skeen. I'm the architect and agent for this application.
Good afternoon. Panel members, any questions for the agent? If not, we can move to a motion. Who'd like to do it? Ms. Valentini.
Mr. Chair, this is a very straightforward application. It's a small one-story rear addition. It's in line with an existing two-story rear addition. I noted they're adding like 6.97 meters square. It's very minor. On that basis, I would like to make a motion for approval of the application without any conditions.
Thank you. That is seconded by Ms. Chan. So moved and seconded to approve. Show of hands, please. In favor? Unanimous vote. Motion's carried and the application's approved.
Mr. Chair.
The panel now arrives at, yes, go ahead.
Just before we get into this next segment, I got to change over the YouTube.
We are doing a technical changeover now. It'll take 1 to 3 minutes, so everybody stand by.
For those of you watching on YouTube, the stream is going to end in a minute, and a new stream will appear with a similar title. You'll be able to join us there.